no one knowing. Hey, 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 hey.
Mike and Tom. Mike and Tom. Locals
Hey.
only. Mike
Woo.
and Tom. Mike and Tom.
Hey. It's the bonus episode. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Tom Roché, is that how you say your last name?
Roché.
Roché. See, this is the second time I messed up a French name.
I'm gonna go now. I'm gonna fuck this pod. Guys, is it a good time?
You
Am
know
I allowed
what?
to swear? Should I just?
52 seconds? That's good. We could call it there. The shortest podcast, from the longest podcast being the last one to two of them now, to now the shortest. No, man. It's so good to see you, dude.
Good to see you too.
It's been a long time. You and Elijah, both, Elijah Bovin, for those of you who didn't see the episode, he came in not too long ago, and both you guys had we had all gone to college together, and man, what a blast it was, dude. And it's so cool to see, like him and yourself, people who are still sort of in it, you know, doing it, killing it, making things happen, because really at the end of the day, it's one of those fields where you could either just kind of go, or not fields, but like, you know, hobbies. It's kind of like a hobby-driven field, because not everybody can sustain a lifestyle based off of those things, and so you really have to be somebody who's a risk taker and somebody who's really creative.
Yeah, because it's driven by a lot of, I think, opinion. I don't know if that's the word. Like, for example, if you're gonna try to think of like, if let's say you're gonna make tables. I know that's carpentry. You know what I mean? Like, there's a difference between, because there's like the art to carpentry, right? But sometimes people just want a table and they don't care what the table looks like, right?
Yeah.
Whereas like in something like music, you better hope that you have your audience. Like, you can't just make music and like, no one just wants to hear a song. They want to hear a specific song. Some people just want a chair. Some people just want a burger. You know, I don't care if we're going to McDonald's or Burger King or Red Robin. Yeah. But what makes it so hard or so difficult for some people is sometimes I think there's an audience for everyone, but it takes people some time to find, like, yo, what's my voice? Yeah. And who's going to resonate with my voice?
And how can you be yourself and that person that everybody wants at the same time? Yeah. This is a middle ground, because obviously you can't just do everything you might want to. Everything, I think, in life reacts differently based off of its environment. And so typically, if you're presenting something to somebody, you'll find that you have to change just a little bit and kind of know what your environment is to really get a good response from that, like you're saying, you know, because not everybody, say somebody really likes rock and roll and you're doing jazz, you know, that might not be their thing. If you're in a place where, you know, like you're saying, it's just definitely, I think it's definitely a skill in and of itself to know your crowd and know where you are. So what have you been up to these days? I was browsing your Instagram. If you guys haven't already checked out his Instagram, please do. Definitely seemed like a proactive guy. Just scrolling through as far as all the stand-up comedy you've been doing in town. Where do you usually do that? Is that all East Hampton or something? So,
I mean, it's been on the low. Like, I don't know if it needs to be said, but with like COVID and everything, like, it's been on the low and stuff like that.
Right. As of now, it's tough to be a performer during these times.
So it's Tom Roché Comedy if you want to check it out. Yeah. I haven't posted anything in like a minute, but there are things there. But so when I would perform, when I would do stand-up comedy, usually the most common places I'll be in Northampton. I've gone to Northampton, Western Mass in general, Springfield, Connecticut. Basically, Connecticut, Massachusetts is kind of where I go between the most. I've been to New York, but only for like some open mics and stuff in Albany. I've never like performed in New York. But yeah, Massachusetts, Connecticut.
That must be so much fun, man.
I love it so much. It
seems like you get one hell of a response too. I haven't seen any of your entire bits. I'm sure you haven't. Have you done any actually specials or anything totally recorded or?
Oh, I haven't done any
things?
like recorded specials. Like I'll at shows and stuff. Like I'll record, but I've never had anything like professionally done. Right. Usually like for stand-up comedians, like on average, like to when I say make it, I don't mean like Netflix Kevin Hart specials, but like to make a living, like to have it be like, oh, I can make regular income for stand-up comedy. I really believe in stand-up comedians say this, like anyone can do it. You just have to stick at it for like 5 to 10 years. Yeah. And for me, it would be only like a year as of January. So I haven't been doing it for that long. Oh, okay. But chances are whatever you're seeing online is all the good stuff. You know what I mean? If I have something with a bad response, I'm not posting it.
But still, a year straight, man. It shows commitment, because I know too many people who try something that's, you know, there's a certain level of risk to that, kind of like we were just talking about, where you're putting yourself out there. And there's a lot of moments, even similarly in doing this, where you really have to go through a few ego deaths. And
you have to put your ego aside, or you have to be willing to let it get hurt.
Yeah.
There was one. All right. So this is there's you always perform at weird places, right? And there's usually the most common place. I think of them as rehearsals, or like the open mics. It's rehearsals for the shows. You practice. But this wasn't even an open mic. So there is a bar in Holyoke at it was a couple rappers who put together like a show at a bar in Holyoke at like midnight.
Yeah.
And they were like, "Do you want to do like it's a comedy set?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck, I'm not gonna say no." You know what I mean? Like any practice. Like I don't care who the audience is exactly. And I was supposed to go up like maybe 30 minutes or an hour in. 1 a.m. at a bar where I know I'm a bomb is already like, and I'm already going in with that defeated mentality. But I was just like, all right, like I'm gonna do my best. And then I didn't end up going up till like 3 a.m. And it was in this bar where they were playing rap music. And then it was just like a bunch of like drunk older people.
Yeah.
And at that point, they were passing around a blunt, and I was like, "Fuck it, I'll take the blunt." So I'm already like no one, like as soon as I went up there and I'm up there for 2 minutes, someone's like, "Put back on the fucking music," and I'm up there, dude, and I'm high too. So I'm like, "Oh, I don't like to do comedy high because it's already that."
Well, it's hard to gather your thoughts.
Yeah,
at that
I'm
point,
like,
you're banging on all cylinders, and it's hard to keep this.
I'm not a social person either when I'm high. I'm the kind of person who will sit down and I want to watch something. I don't want to talk. Right. I don't want to have I couldn't do this podcast. I'd just be like, "Talk, dude. I'm gonna listen."
I was just talking to Jameson about that. I was really wondering how the podcast would go if I was high.
Do you smoke often, or
no.
What's your relationship?
I don't smoke very often. I do have like a pen, which is what I got from Netto. It's like 4 parts CBD, 1 part THC, and I do take that to help me sleep or to alleviate anxiety from time to time. So I'm not an avid smoker by any means, but I sometimes really appreciate the way my mind thinks when I am high, both from just a creative standpoint and even from a what's the word I'm looking for?
Introspective?
Yeah, that's actually a good way to put it too. Just I feel like my thoughts can sometimes be better organized, and I have an easier time articulating them, depending on how it's hitting me. I guess it might depend on what I ate that day or something like that. Because typically I'm in the same boat as you. When I smoke, I'm just out of commission pretty much. It's sort of alone time type of vibe.
I've had to cut back because I realized just like if I smoke, like I'm gonna feel, even when I'm like the high is away, like the next week I'm just gonna feel lazy. So I'm like, if I pick it up again, like I'd have to make sure I'm going on vacation somewhere for like I'd have to
you gotta sweat it out, figure out, make sure you go for a run or something right after. Because no kidding, it really does. Especially if you're not an avid smoker, it can affect you for a couple days. You feel sluggish. That's why I like the pen. I think because the one I have is super mild, and the stuff they have these days, they're growing it for sport. Yeah. It's like it's not like what you might have bought when it was illegal. Like when it was illegal, it was just like you had 2 options, and one of them was like pretty crappy but cheap, and the other one was like okay but a little more expensive, and you could probably smoke both and still function. Now it's like, what is this, 79% THC? Like it's got like some name you can't even pronounce, like Quasar.
I knew a lot of people who dealt with it. And they knew the science behind it, and they would always just have this crazy, no moon rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like they put I forget what it is, the crystal stuff. I don't know the names, but it's just like
on the marijuana, like before they smoked it. I think it's like keef.
I think
it's pretty much like the
crystallized keef. And it's always the craziest stuff. And
the wax, the hash or whatever. I think it's wax.
The end of that story, though, what ended up happening after that, I went up, and it was just literally 30 minutes of nut silence, but I stayed up there. There was this one woman who was heckling me, and I was like, honestly, you're funnier than I am, so I gave her the mic, and then she just shat on me for like 5 minutes. Then I was like, all right, I'm gonna try some self-deprecation. So I start shitting on myself. And then she goes, "Who are you talking about?" And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "You better not be talking shit. I'll kick your ass." And I'm like, "Ma'am, I'm talking about myself, right?" Like I'm not even. And I'm like, "Oh, what am I gonna do?" And I just kept going. And then I was done. I was like, "All right, guys, thanks for listening.
Dude,
I'm done."
What a vibe.
And
what
they
a
were
mood.
like, I want you, rap. So then I can't rap. I spit for 3 minutes, nothing. And they're like, ah. And honestly, I felt like shit after. I was like, man, I really
That's what
bombed.
happens when like booze and like when you're trying to catch the vibe and you're high and you're trying to catch people's vibe who are drunk. It's a completely different wavelength sometimes, and that's exactly a good example of it, because you start saying something and somebody's freaking pissed drunk, doesn't know what the hell's going on, what time it is, where they are. What'd you say about me? You know what I mean? Type of deal.
and
you can
the
get
rappers,
that anytime at the bar.
They were a good crowd, not because they laughed, but because it was hard to make them laugh. So if they smiled, it felt like a victory. I was like, all right, I got them. But afterwards, I sat down and I was like in my head, and I'm surprised. I kind of expected, because they kind of like, they didn't laugh at all. So I was like, oh, they're probably like, this dude sucked. And they didn't tell me I didn't suck, but they understood, because they're like, yo, we've performed and we've gotten nothing. They were like, honestly, the fact that you're up there for 30 minutes bombing and you didn't get off, like that's dude,
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And I got teary eyed. Like that's the whole point, is like, it hurt it hurt. Because I was elevated because I was high, but I remember being like, damn, I kind of want to cry right now. Like,
bro, I'm right there with you. Like, bombing is okay, so my story, and probably why I've ever since had, like, I've been always very nervous to talk in front of large groups of people, especially when I'm not super certain. So, like, my job consists of me teaching large groups of people sometimes, and that I have no problem with.
What is your job?
I'm a personal trainer at New England Functional Fitness in East Longmeadow, and I often will teach classes before COVID, and it's very easy to teach those classes because I really know exactly what I'm talking about, and everybody trusts me, and I kind of know everybody in the room. Though back in high school, I was in this the school committee board. It was the health advisory board for Hampden County. Not the health advisory board, the youth advisory board for Hampden County, and it was myself and like 9 other kids from surrounding high schools who were on this board talking about bullying. Our topic was bullying and substance abuse. So at the end of the year, or halfway through the year, we came up with a presentation based off of our conclusion on how these things can be mitigated or dealt with throughout schools in the surrounding areas. And then we had to present it at the Mass Mutual Center to the chief of police, the chief of fire, the district attorney, Mark Mastriani, and a bunch of other like ups in the town. And it was me who was presenting. And can I tell you, never has somebody choked so fucking hard.
Have you presented much before that?
Nah, never really. I mean, I was like decent in public, like speaking, when it came to presenting things like projects in school. I was never terrible at it. I wasn't like sweating. But man, a bird might as well have flown into my throat, because I literally we even had planned if I was choking, I would do something, and I forget what it was. I think I was like supposed to scratch my nose, and I just and then thank God this girl from Munson Wilbraham Academy was a whiz. She came up there and just crushed it. But man, did I flop.
You know, that's so surprising to me, because like when we would share our videos and stuff, and cause we had the video class, and even just first off, just hearing like, cause I know like we both had very silly like videos. So,
yes,
like
me and you were like really proactive in that class.
Like, one video I remember that you had, it was what was it? I'm trying to remember all the elements, but I'm gonna get.
Was it the one with the lighting or the one with the shark tooth?
It was the one with the beard.
The shark tooth.
And
guy.
Were you like summoned or something? Like, can you remind me?
So yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. It was Imaginary Friend.
Okay.
My buddy calls me up to hang out. Then all of a sudden I hear this voice in the room, and then boom, I appear. So if you guys, God, what's the channel? I think if you just type in my name in YouTube, it will come up. Michael Mulholland. Huh? Life's Finest Videos, but it's just my name, because that's before I knew how to make a name on YouTube. Like, that was very, very novice at media altogether. But when I made that video, so it's under Michael Mulholland. So I had an imaginary friend that I hadn't seen since I was a kid come back to me in my teenage or early 20 years and be like, oh, I'm not good enough for you just because I'm imaginary, and essentially giving my real self a hard time, and then so on and so forth. But yeah.
And I know, and obviously like film is so different than on a camera being on stage.
Yeah.
But you have a lot of energy. You know what I mean? Like you're a person with a lot of energy. So like hearing that story, it's just like, oh wow, like I wouldn't imagine you to go up there.
I was terrible. I will say.
It takes a lot of bravery though to be up even like for that amount of time. Like it's fucking horrifying.
Dude, there was which one that when I was.
But the story you were telling me, like that sounds like.
Dude, because there's so many people there. I choked so hard. The first thing I did when I went to college is I signed up for public speaking because I did not want that ever to happen again. And I still have a lot of fine tuning to go through because I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm still even a little bit nervous just to do this. I've been getting better and better, but because I can only do so many episodes per week, it's not like I can do this every day. But people have been coming in, and for those of you who have came in, I can't thank you guys enough because it's been like really fun. And again, this is I don't have more than like 12 episodes out there, so it's there's a learning curve, and I don't expect to get good at it overnight. But
I was even like on the way here because I'm used to when I speak publicly, it's either like I'm doing theater and I have a role as actor, stand-up comedy, sketch comedy, but I always have lines prepared.
Yeah,
I've done improv before, but even improv, there's like we get suggestions and we do it. So on the way here, I was like, damn, this is like the feeling of going up for like a performance, but I have no idea what my lines are. Like, what are we gonna talk? Like, I have no idea. So like I was nervous standing, but I tried not to think about it. I was like, I'm just gonna go through it. Trust Mike, it'll be fine. Like
exactly. Well, that's kind of what I want to be to really refine myself in is obviously present like a cool, calm, and collective environment where the obvious objective is just to have a conversation. Because again, really. That's kind of the best part about a lot of really popular podcasts is that it's a very freestyle type of conversation where people are just sharing intellectual or funny things. And really, I mean, I don't want anybody to be accountable for what they're saying either, because at the same time, opinions change, people change, and it's kind of just fun to see where they're at. And down the road, they come back on the show. Hey, how's it going again? What's changed, So that's the kind of aspect you can kind of expect.
I'm waiting to say something on this podcast that's going to get me canceled in a couple of years. Like, they're going to dig this up. And they're gonna be like, Tom Roché said what?
Yeah.
And everyone's going to try to cancel me. Yeah. If America's still around, I don't know. Maybe society will crumble.
If you talk about like Goya beans or something.
That thing was... all right, I don't... How do I put it? Let me choose my words carefully.
Yeah, be careful, dude.
I'm not actually sure I have to.
There's a guy with a crossbow aiming it through that window right now, and he'll cancel you quick.
I don't fuck with Republicans. I don't fuck with Democrats. I just don't believe it. Yeah, I'm not. I wouldn't even say I'm apolitical. I just I feel some type of way about like two-party system and stuff like that. But I'm not politically intelligent. Like I'm not.
Yeah, same.
But I like saying things that'll upset either. Like that's where I'm going with that. Like when the whole Goya thing went down. Or anyone watching, I don't know, but what was it? The CEO of Goya basically was like, Trump's doing a good job.
And then everybody's like, no more Goya.
Yeah, and I just, as someone who's Puerto Rican and is Goya, like I just found it funny because I'm like, I wonder how many people who I know are Puerto Rican and are like, fuck Trump, understandably, are gonna like, I wonder what, because I know a lot of people who boycott certain things like Chick-fil-A or this and that. But I always notice that in my experience, people tend to boycott things that they maybe aren't already. Like. Going after, so I was like, I wonder if people are gonna like let go of Goya. Or it's just funny to watch it go down.
It's crazy though. It's so crazy. Like, at what point does somebody stand up and be like, all of this cancel culture is really taking away from the main objective of all these really important movements? In a sense, because I mean, think about how many brands have been defaced in the past few months. Like, it's almost like so. The objective of defacing those brands was obviously to eliminate oppression or racism or whatever, right?
What are a couple of brands like
Aunt Jemima? I think the Bendito burrito, and
I'm familiar with the Aunt
Jemima. The Redskins as a team. Like, so
how do you feel about that? Like,
well, it's funny because you think about it, and it's stripping. So now on TV, driving down the road, in the grocery store, the only thing you see now are white people on everything. Because they're taking everybody who's of a different culture away.
I understand it because I feel I get what you're saying because you're not saying like, oh, they shouldn't be. I don't know if I'm putting words in your mouth. You're saying it's not that they shouldn't be stripped, but you feel like by taking away these images who aren't white, it's just leaving more white people behind, more like making I don't know if I'm putting it.
Well, no. So, instance, now you're walking down the grocery store. Nobody really knows anymore who Aunt Jemima is. But the point is, it was a good brand, and everybody loved it. And I don't know if say she was alive today, would she not want to be the face of a popular syrup? I don't see how that's a bad thing. You know what I mean?
So I agree and I disagree. So I get where you're coming from. From the way I see it is, it's like I get Redskins because it's kind of like. It's like it's an insult, right? So you have like if you're Native American, it's like ooh, like I don't, you know what I mean? I feel like the Native American voice. I think the Native Americans would rather. I don't know if it was
ever like meant to be an insult, more just like a name.
It's taken as one. You know what I mean? I think as
do you think it evolved into one, based off of how people feel about it now, or did somebody like name?
I don't know what the origin is, but I'm sure it's just like. I don't
because I don't know either.
I'm sure it's just the connotation of people using a word.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, ooh, I don't like how that. Like I associate that word with something negative towards me, you know. But with Aunt Jemima, from what I understand, is it's kind of like Aunt Jemima represents this caricature of like, because it's like slaves were free, and I'm simplifying this. Like, there's someone who's gonna hear me and be like, I can explain that way better than him.
Yeah.
But slaves were freed, but then. You had the house slaves, but then you still had black people were still delegated to these like roles at like the at-home cook and this kind of like the auntie and the mammy, and I think people are kind of trying to get rid of that imagery, which is understandable. Like I'm for it actually. I don't have a problem with it. I think people would be like, look, I'd rather have, not that this is the case, but I'm sure people would rather have no black representation than Aunt Jemima. People would rather have like look like.
But what about the Quaker's Oats guy? That guy had to have been a slave owner. You think? You ever see? Look at the guy. Do you ever see the guy in the front of the Quaker Oats? That dude looks exactly like a pilgrim.
If he was, okay, see, here's the thing. I don't mind people getting canceled for stuff like slavery. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's stuff like if Kevin Hart makes a joke, you know what I mean, and it's misconstrued and he changes and he don't even think he needs to apologize for it. It's like you're a different person. You've evolved from that brand of comedy. You don't need to be canceled. And when it becomes actual racism and caricatures, it's like, all right, I think we can move on for that. You know what I mean? If people want to tear down statues and stuff like that, go ahead. Like fucking.
Well, it is America.
Remember your history. Remember your history, because we I think keep teaching it, right? You know, I think some people make the argument of like, oh, if you like tear down these statues, you're gonna forget your history. It's like, oh, well, you don't need a statue of Hitler up to remember World War II.
Put them in a museum or something, or if we even need them at all. Yeah, that is true. I mean, honestly, but I just feel like, in a sense, the primary objective flips itself a little bit, because now you have an all-white America in a sense. Because how many figures are?
I disagree, because it's like first, I feel like.
Captain Crunch.
I think
Colonel Sanders.
I don't think black people.
These are the people we see now.
Because it's like as a Puerto Rican, as a black person, as a Mexican person, I'm not worried about my face on cereal. You know what I mean? Like I like representation in like media. You know what I mean? Like,
true.
But I like if someone's like, if anything, I hate that. Like I hate, for example, there's a character. Are you familiar with the show Big Mouth on Netflix?
Oh my gosh, I've never watched it, but I've seen it.
There's
I've seen it
a character on there, and I think I might be getting it wrong, but it's something along the lines of, I think there's a character on there, and she's black and Jewish.
Yeah.
And she's voiced by, I believe.
Bluish.
She's bluish. She's bluish. She's Jack. She's Jack, but she's voiced by, I think, a Jewish voice actress. But they're like, for representation, we're gonna recast her for a black person.
That's messed up.
I don't think that's really what people are worried about. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And also, if you're gonna take, so she's half black, half Jewish. You're gonna get rid of someone who's Jewish, to have someone who's black, but you're still it's still half and half.
Doesn't matter because Mickey Mouse wasn't a mouse. You know what I mean? So at the end of the day, I think a lot of, again, back to the first thing I was saying, these little stupid things are taking away from the most important thing, which is changing the present. Because you can't change the past. Aunt Jemima will always be Aunt Jemima. You couldn't, even if she.
You can change the face though. You can say like we're gonna make it Uncle
you mean
Tom.
Aunt Jamie.
Aunt Karen. We're gonna make it Aunt Karen.
But my point is that Aunt Jemima was still Aunt Jemima, right? So, rather than put so much time and energy and focus and publicity into changing things that really can't be changed, you can, again, from the aesthetic standpoint, of course, you can strip them and change them up a little bit, but I think that takes away focus from the main problem.
I agree. I think you can't change the history. You can't change the present. and I don't think it needs to be super publicized.
And at what point, too, did we forget that we're all humans? How often do we keep, like, instituting races? Like, there's no difference between somebody who's, like, a Mexican and Asian. There's literally no difference.
I think it
those
comes
are two
into,
humans.
It comes into why race is so important. I agree. I think it shouldn't be, right? Like in an
it's
ideal
kind of
world.
Think about deep
but I think
that.
the thing is that people are treated differently. But like even as Puerto Rican, like I notice there's a lot of racism between like I notice like I have like I know Puerto Ricans and Puerto Rican family members who might say something racist about Dominicans or black people.
Yeah.
But it blows my mind. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I know people who might say something racist against like I'm like because it's not all white people. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like every race, not everyone from every race, but there are different people of different races who are racist towards a lot of different races.
Yeah.
And I think that is, to answer your question, is like what is different really between like a Mexican and an Asian person. And it comes down to not the internal, but the external. It's the way people treat them. And that's why it's so important, right?
Yeah.
People are like, well, people are fighting to be treated like a human. They're wondering the same thing. Like, why are you treating me different because I'm black?
Right.
Why? Because I'm Puerto Rican.
Do you think there's like an overwhelming amount of display that these people are different from each other? Because what I'm saying is fundamentally
overwhelming display. Do you
like
mean
meaning there's just a lot of emphasis, publicity, and reminders in a sense that constantly that we're different. I feel like throughout the media, like there's constantly segregation.
The media doesn't help. Like I believe like the movements and stuff are valid.
Yeah.
And the media, I don't think the media tries to help. The people try to help themselves. Yeah. And I feel like the media perpetuates fear, right? Because when you look at the news, and I swear, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I swear that the headlines have gotten more fear-based and more like crazy and outrageous.
They're super polarizing.
And like this year, like even aside from polarization, I swear like like even like the cases, like there are a couple cases of the bubonic plague in China. Right?
Yeah.
Like a
really?
couple, yeah.
Oh,
but like that
returns.
but like they really try to make it. And there was like the murder hornets, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they really, it's like before it's even known as a problem, like people are like, we want to get you talking.
We'll see who's tapping in. We'll put it out there.
Because
see
fear,
how many people
the fear
come
sells, right? The worry, and I think that because race is such an issue that people are passionate about because it's something that affects so many lives, the media perpetuates that by like we're gonna keep fueling this race war, right? When instead of finding a way to heal, they want to separate, and I agree with that completely.
Yeah. This is a good point. I'm sorry, you were saying.
I was just gonna say something about the headlines real quick.
Yeah.
If you have like a murder hornet headline or like bubonic plague headline, people are going to click on that because that's interesting, right? Mm-hmm. And then you got advertisers sitting there planting their ads behind those headlines. So you're going to click on that. The first thing you're going to see is some ad. You're not going to see the article. And you notice that all those articles are just very poorly written and short. And like, honestly, it's just for the advertisement dollars in most cases, I think.
The almighty dollar.
It's the same with the news, right? They just want you to watch the commercials,
clickbait,
right? Watch the news.
Thumbnail, clickbait type stuff.
It's hard. I want to say it's hard to find quality stuff because you can find quality if you really want it, but you have to sift through a bunch of shit. Right?
It's tough. Yeah. So the fundamental, I guess baseline argument of it is like, it's really off-putting to see how far out of the way people go to define each other. Like, oh, you're this, you're that, and like you're saying, there's a lot of prejudice because of it too. So, when you're somebody like yourself or myself who really doesn't recognize like the feeling of how to be prejudiced, or you know what I mean, like because you've probably never been prejudiced. I can't remember a time that I've ever been against somebody because it's like, oh, you're this race.
Okay, so I think there's racism, and then there's prejudice, and there's bias, right?
Right.
I think everyone, I honestly think, and not in a bad way, I mean this in a way where because it exists in everyone, like I think everyone's got like, because I believe in levels of racism, right? Mm-hmm. There's like you shouldn't have the same rights as me because you're different. And then there's like sometimes people.
That's a big one though. That's the biggest one.
Yeah. And that's then and there's that, and then you got genocide, right? It keeps going higher. You think it can't get any worse, and then it's like and then you have like lower levels, right? Where it's like, someone might be at a gas station, and a white person might walk by, and they're fine, and then a black person might walk by, and they're like hair stands on the back of their neck.
Yeah.
Now they're not consciously thinking anything, right? but subconsciously this person, you know what I mean? Like there's things subconsciously that we don't realize. I don't like labeling that as racism. Cause,
what if it's like PTSD? What if like they got attacked by somebody who looked like
that's
that
different? Yeah, I think that's different, right? I think, but there's also stuff like you said, like the media. There's this I don't know what to call it. I don't want to call it an experiment. I forget what they're called, but this test you can take, and it's basically like a word association thing. And I regret even bringing it up because I feel like I'm gonna explain it horribly. But if I'm remembering correctly, it's like it's this thing where you're taking this test on the computer,
right?
And you have to associate these words with these images that come up on the screen, and it'll be images of like say white people and the images of like black people, and certain words, and you don't have time to think about the words you're associating with the images, and a lot of people, and this wasn't just white people, but white and black people were associating more negative words with the black people, right? Like even in terms of police, it's not like white police are more likely to shoot a black man. Police in general are more likely, and I think part of that is what we're talking about is what the media perpetuates. You know what I mean? That's just again, I'm not like a super
right, because again, at the end of the day, we only know what they tell us, and
exactly.
It's like this sort of bottlenecks the whole information process. Because I question all the time, what do I actually know? Because if the majority of your information is coming from Facebook or the media, I mean that's a bottleneck, because most of what people know and how they delegate, or rather how they conduct themselves throughout life is usually based off of their own life experiences.
Yeah.
Like true.
You have nothing else but your own life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or you guys, I saw you there.
The test you're talking about is the implicit bias test, and it was created at Harvard University. I've taken that test twice. I got results on both ends of the spectrum. So the first time I took it, I got like a neutral score, and then the second time I took it, I got like I'm a bias towards white people results, which I mean.
There are people who are biased towards it.
With it, but I mean, it is what it is.
You know? I want to take that test. Send that to me.
Interesting.
Yeah, I will.
Who makes that test, though?
It's Harvard University.
You think they're racist, whoever made that test?
If you make it, let me know what your results are. Yeah.
I'm extremely racist.
I do think we are blind to our prejudices and stuff like that. You know what I mean? And I don't think it makes anyone a bad person.
Well,
I just think you don't know what you're
obviously in this climate. Everybody I think has put deep thought into it, and I swear to God I didn't recognize the real difference. But I've also lived in a lot of different places with a lot of different people. Recognize that there was even racism at all, because I've obviously, like we were saying, based off of life experiences, never experienced it, and I've never felt like I was different. Plus having the opportunity in my life, not that this is a sad story, but to be the foreigner in my life at one point might have set the tone for that, because my whole family was Portuguese, and when I was a kid I went to school there, and you're 10, 11 years old, you don't know how to speak the language, you're not gonna have some friends, you're not gonna have many friends on the first day. And little kids can be motherfuckers, but as time went on, you figure out how to adapt to the crowd and make friends. And so it's just a weird thing now, obviously understanding that it's a big deal and it's been something that's been going on. But I also wonder how much of it is internal. Like how many people who claim that racism had been something, they're a victim of it. How many people who've claimed that they're a victim of racism, but it's more of an internal perspective that they have, that, he did that because he's racist. Maybe he's just having a bad day. Maybe he was even like you.
I definitely
both sides of the spectrum.
I definitely think that totally happens. I think that shouldn't invalidate like legitimate.
No. Yeah. That's not the point at all. But
I don't think that. But I think 100%.
People can have pity parties all the time over shit and not know how to just cock their shoulders back and stick their chest up.
I have family members who were quite the troublemakers, and they would do a lot of crazy, like, okay, so there's a story where they
because at the end of the day, we're talking about humans. Every human's racist, can be. It has that potential. It doesn't matter.
I would argue that every human is racist at different levels. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But
it's
there's certain levels that you excuse, right? There's certain levels where it's just like, hey, correct your behavior. And there's certain levels where it's just like, okay, you're just...
Racism is a human condition. It's part of humanity in a sense. You know
I think
so.
Yeah, it's something like
it might be weeded out because it's pretty primitive, obviously. Because it's like at the end of the day, like I was saying, everybody's a human. There's no difference between anybody besides like the difference between person A and person B would be as different as defining two trees by how many leaves are on their branches. They're both trees. they have a difference, but it's sort of arbitrary to say, oh, you're different because you speak like this and you speak like this. Or
I can already tell
look like this,
that there's someone watching. There's going to be someone watching who's going to take the stuff that we're saying out of because I know what you're saying. Like I completely
you know what
follow.
I'm saying?
I get what you're saying.
Like I'm saying on a fundamental level, we have every same organ in our entire body. We function, we reproduce,
there's someone
we
who's going to watch this and think that. Like
and
what we're saying is trying to invalidate because I know that's not the case at all.
No.
I know so many people and I've seen it that people will just jump. They'll pick certain things, right? They're like, you said this, so I'm gonna focus in on this.
Controversy is exhilarating. Controversy is exhilarating. That's fine.
Yeah,
that's fine. I come from a curious place when I'm saying these things because at the end of the day, also more so than living on because again these are all constructs that you've been taught by media, whether it's been media TV, media internet, any type of visual and audibilization or whatever that's come into your life has constructed your opinion in some way. So now we're all humans living on countries instead of on a planet, right? All this would change immediately, I feel like, in a big way one day if aliens do come into the play. I know that's a leap, but imagine for a second how you would think when all of a sudden there is a well-known, documented, and understood form of life that is equally, if not more intelligent.
Do you believe in aliens?
Of course. Well, I know there's something else out there because we're proof that life can exist in the cosmos. So obviously at this point it's just a ratio. How many planets are habited out of the ratio of planets that exist?
Do you believe in a multiverse in other dimensions?
Sure.
Like where does it?
Sure.
Do you believe anything is possible? Like where do you have a place where you draw the line?
No, not really. Not with quantum physics and shit. There is no line to be drawn. Everything, because on a fundamental level, it's all atoms. We're literally the byproduct of a star. Like every single atom in our body.
It's like I was talking about with my friend. We were talking about how like everything always comes down to vibrations and energy, right? Like whether it's matter or light, like it's energy, like as a vibration. Just like
So that's always the place I come from. That's why it's always been so confusing to me with especially a movement like this. It's like, damn, you know what, like, because I'd probably easily fit into the white category, and like it makes you wonder if you're racist. And I've never thought that about myself, so now it's a little nerve-wracking.
Yeah, but I think it's like, a price to. I think it's worth it because I'm not white, but I don't know if you feel this way, but because it's like we got two issues, right, that I feel like society's dealing with. We're dealing with racism. I feel like a lot of white people had like, oh, I'm gonna watch my step, right? Which is good, but I feel like as a man too, I feel that way about sexism, where I'm like, let me make sure that I'm not like,
that I watch,
that
I watch because
so that's why I'm like, and I think it's necessary. Like I think it's a price to pay. Like
there's definitely more, I think, primitive attributes that are still lingering within a man to be dominant. It's what are you going to deny your gross anatomy and your functions as a human? It's just tough. And not to say that I think people are intellectual enough these days, at least, especially in our generation.
We're animals and we have to tame ourselves, right? You can tame I'm not trying to compare men to dogs, but if you can tame a dog who's like a dog, you can control whatever you have to control, right? Like you can be a man, you can be a human being, like fucking have some self-control, right?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's really part of growing up, really. It's part of growing up. Yeah, some people never grow up.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
I mean, think about how many people still abuse like basic substances. That's one hell of a freaking rabbit hole to go down. Is being in the realm of needing something to make you feel good.
And I think it's I don't want to say it because it's not that easy, because I think I think some of us get lucky. Some of us find things that, I don't want to say abuse. We find things that we can, you know what I mean? Like art, right? Like that's such a healthy thing to hold on. Like this right here, like this is a healthy thing. And some people just end up with the wrong thing, and then it becomes hard to let go because you think it's a part of you. You know what I mean?
And it becomes a part of you. I mean, look at how alcohol affects the bloodstream. I mean, it's literally you take somebody alcohol who's been using it for a long time, they die. Yeah. Like there's no question. That's why liquor stores were essential. Because
I had an argument with my mom. She's like, I don't see why. I was like, I mean, because people might die.
Like people will die. And it's funny because I was the guy guy going, really? Liquor stores are open, but not like gyms? But I'm biased because I work at a gym, and but but then somebody said, well, there's people who are severely addicted to alcohol and would die. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And that's like the only drug. Like, I don't think that's heroin. Weed won't do that to you. Cocaine won't.
Heroin will. Heroin can give you stomach ulcers.
Ooh.
I think, like, I've known a lot of people, like, heroin is a big one, at least in this area. Do you know a lot of people who've been on heroin?
A couple comedians. I noticed there's a lot of that's a thing in like, I don't want to attribute comedy
with,
to the
with freaking painkillers. People, if you're prescribed like painkillers from your hospital, like, take as little of those as possible. That's, I mean, I don't, obviously I can't tell you I'm not a doctor, so, but my point is, nobody I know who's either had severe problems from heroin or died of heroin, they all started with painkillers.
Would you ever do heroin?
Yes. Definitely not, dude. I would do LSD. I've never tried LSD.
I've done LSD.
You have?
Oh, that's a story.
Was it cool?
Yeah. Like, here's the thing.
Tell me
about it.
It
was a horrible experience, and I would do it. I'm going to choose my...
What the hell? Were you at a bar and went up on stage?
So, the time I did LSD, I just lost my sense of reality. Like, I really, I swear I had psychosis or something like that. Like, there's 2 times. Which story do I want to tell? All right, I'll tell this one.
You did it twice, you said.
I've done it. Okay, so hold on. I did it. Let me count, because I tripped twice, and there was one time I did it, but I didn't really. I guess I microdosed because I felt nice, but I didn't I wasn't like But there was one time I did it. So first thing we did is we watched Dragon Ball Super. We watched some anime.
There's your first mistake.
And it was so intense. like when they would power up, I would imagine. Scream with Vegeta. I'd be like, I was in, like, it felt like I was I didn't feel like I was teleported in, but it was so intense. Like, I felt very empathetic to whatever was on the screen. So that's one thing. I felt and I'd never experienced anything like this before. There were moments where I forgot I was on LSD. So I'd be like, yo, what is that? Like, if you imagine being on a psychedelic and forgetting you're on a psychedelic, I would think my mind is melting. There are moments where I was like, and this is a common thing, there are moments where I was like, I don't think this is ever going to end. Like, I think I'm going to be like this. Some people get that when they smoke pot, where they're like, I think I'm going to be high forever.
Honestly, I know a couple of people who accidentally got high and accidentally then on top of it got too high. Back when, like, my parents were younger, maybe not that much younger, but before I was born, I've heard stories of them making pop brownies. And then, Nana gets one. Ooh, brownies. Fantastic, right? No. Nana's dead. Nana's dying. She's got the Bible on her chest. She's fucking crying. Yeah. It can be reality shattering.
That's what it was. I definitely had, like, I don't want to say ego death, because I feel like there's different levels of that, right?
Probably.
But I definitely had a moment where I haven't been the same person since I did psychedelics as I am now. Like, it definitely,
I believe
it was almost traumatic. Like, it was almost traumatic. Like, I felt like just certain things that you have to face in your mind that came out.
You can be surprised how many different things in this life, both internal and external, can actually evoke a life-changing experience.
And I was describing it to a friend, and they were like, everything you're describing about how you feel about that experience is similar to how people describe near-death experiences.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, wow. But yeah, it made me want to take life to the next level. I started cleaning my room. That's a crazy...
Dude, as a guy, I will tell you, I suck at cleaning my room. If you did, I probably need some acid. So I keep, like, every other room in my house clean. The bathroom, the kitchen, the living room. My room? Nah. I roll around to put the clothes on. You know what I mean? There's just clothes I close the door because I'm embarrassed. I swear to God, man.
I'll say my room isn't the best, but if you compare it to, like, it was like, I'm telling you, like, I had those, it was so bad that I had to destroy it to clean it. Sometimes. On occasion.
I don't like to admit it.
This come off the window.
I'm hungry. There's a piece of pepperoni from last Thursday still stuck to the wall.
It's like, oh, this pizza came with mushroom. It's like, no, it didn't come with the mushroom. That was in my room.
Oh my God, man. Yeah, I've done shrooms like a long time ago, and I've always sort of.
They're similar. I'm gonna admit, similar.
No, I know they're different, but I think there's an equal amount of wisdom to gain from them. I don't know if it's wisdom.
Like, I would say it, like, opens that subconscious gate.
There's an experience. Yeah. Oh, big time. I mean, look at a lot of very very popular philosophers, like even from the 60s, and the difference between, like, imagine the day, if ever, that Jordan Peterson does LSD. You know who Jordan Peterson is?
Yeah, he's never done I just assumed he's done.
Has he ever done?
No, I don't think he has.
He's talked about it though,
so
right?
he's like he's very similar to the way Alan Watts would conduct himself. Do you know who Alan Watts is?
Yeah, I love listening to Alan Watts.
Alan Watts before and after LSD is just a beautiful transformation.
I don't know if I've ever heard him before. Like I just assume everything I've heard is post.
He's got some great stuff pre psychedelics. Okay. But I would try LSD. I would try DMT too. I really would. But the thing is,
I'd have to feel like I'm in a better place in my that's where I'm at. Where I'm like, I learned that
you never know though. It's one of those things you might never be ready for. And that's what I keep telling myself. Oh, I don't know if I'm ready for it, right? But can you be ready for DMT? Like, can you really be ready for something that profound?
It's a leap of faith.
It really is. It is a leap of faith into a cold or warm ocean from 10,000 feet in the air.
I know someone, and they described their DMT trip. They were like, what it felt like is they were like, it was like I was in a room, and all of a sudden, like, and this makes me like, you think about simulation theory, and they were like, it just felt like all the pixels washed away, like everything, and I was like in darkness for 1,000,000 years, and then I came back. I was like, that sounds like such a, and everyone has different.
You just
things,
get up. I need a shave. It's like, Tom, it's been 3 minutes. Oh, I was stroking my Mr. Miyagi beard, like.
Yeah, I definitely. There were moments on LSD where I thought I couldn't move. Where I was like, if I move,
I've heard
I'll
that
go
on
to
salvia.
hell and I'll burn.
I'm not as interested as I am in DMT. I'm not as interested as in salvia, even though I think it's legal. You can buy it over the counter.
That's crazy.
Have you heard about salvia?
I heard. I'm surprised. I didn't think it was crazier than some psychedelics, but is it? Like,
oh my god! So if you're looking for a really good laugh, YouTube just. Salvia trips gone wrong. Okay. And 90% of salvia trips go wrong. This is the funny part. So you got people trying to throw themselves out of a window. One guy stood up and beat the shit out of his dryer. Like
yeah, see, I wouldn't be surprised if I did something like that tripping. Like I literally, like, next time I go, I have to write down a reminder that you're like, I'm tripping. Like sometimes you have to remind yourself that you're high.
Yeah. Like, but you're right. Mindset's huge, and you're set and setting. That's one thing I found.
That's the thing. I don't think I was in good settings when I was tripping.
Yeah, and that's probably it, because you'd be surprised how your body will react based on your environment. You know, because that can determine the outcome of your thoughts, your stress levels, and then all those things could be amplified or skewed immensely when you're on a powerful psychedelic. So, if you're not in the right place, even something like alcohol and marijuana, has always been the case for me. Like that's why I typically don't drink or smoke that often. I always have to be in a place that I like, with people I like. Otherwise, I'll just hang out, you know, and then go home at some point. But yeah, if it came down to it, I wouldn't do DMT unless, of course, I was with people I really trusted. It's important to have what's called a spotter too, which is somebody who's there to just be with you.
I definitely had people with me, but I didn't have anyone with it. It was like, also, they were also tripping, so it was like no one was really spotting, right? Like, it was just
I've heard. I mean, and I haven't done it yet, but every time I hear somebody doing it, they always say how important it is to have somebody around you're comfortable with, who maybe could put music on or just make so you feel comfortable that things are okay. Because you never know what kind of like primordial mindset you get into. I mean, geez, from what I've heard, you can be in, like you said, in a completely different world for 1,000,000 years and 5 minutes goes by or something like that, similar to salvia. But a lot of these things are so cool because the way they're portrayed, if you were to use a lot of substances, and here's the thing about certain substances, is that I think more often, especially in American culture, substances are abused more than they are used. Meaning people do them for the party mentality or to get fucked up. But the reality is that there's an enormous amount of benefits you can get from doing these types of things constructively. In the same way you would use an external tool, marijuana and other safe psychedelics are internal tools. So there's a lot of things that can not only be discovered about the self, but understood, even if it's past issues you've had, present issues you're having. I mean, Michael Pollan, I've talked about this with a couple different people. Michael Pollan's the man to go to. He's an author, by the way. I think I called him a scientist before. I think Michael Pollan's just an author, but he's a really leading force in the development and distribution of like medicinal psilocybin, and that's the effective ingredient in mushrooms, of course, and it's a very powerful psychedelic, and so many people, studies have shown that is, so many people have benefited so greatly from it, from both alleviating them from depression and anxiety and PTSD.
I definitely felt like after doing shrooms, I swear, because people describe the afterglow, but I felt good after I just felt freer. Like I just wow, I feel good. Like
yeah,
my shrooms experience was great. Like there were a couple moments where it got scary, but it was nothing like that. Like the shrooms was very I felt hopeful as a person afterwards.
Yeah.
It took my negative mindset and something about it melted away, and I just felt better about where things could be and where things could go.
I'm gonna try and nail the analogy. Is it an analogy when you're describing something?
There's different ways to describe
metaphor?
something.
Well,
metaphor is
yeah. I need to fine tune that. Anyways, the saying that Michael Pollan used on a podcast that I watch, and I think you're familiar with this one as well, Jameson, is that the mind in this instance, when it comes to taking psychedelics, certain psychedelics such as mushrooms, psilocybin, is that your mind would be like a snow-covered mountaintop, right? And the thoughts are skiers going down. Those are your thoughts, right? And as time goes on, those thoughts, those skiers, dig deeper and deeper grooves in. So you have those exact same thoughts coursing through your mind consistently and creating deeper and deeper grooves. So now you have this constant and similar thought pattern. And these are the types of thought patterns that typically evoke anxiety,
and stuff
anger. You know what I mean? Like think about how when you see something controversial on the internet and how it makes you feel all of a sudden, right? That could be a product of a bad thought process that you continuously conduct every time you see that. So what happens when you take psychedelics is that essentially you get a fresh coat of snow. All of a sudden those thoughts become different. Their patterns develop a little differently and have new ways of forming, maybe better ways a lot of the times, because now you're not so stuck in the same thought patterns, because when you're using the brain to do the same thing consistently, which most people, especially in these really tough and polarizing and aggressive times, people are choosing the same thought patterns to address the same issues instead of like either looking within or just forgetting about it.
It's more comfortable to do what you're familiar with.
Let's be honest. Everybody who's really lashing out, a lot of the times they're just using hate to deal with people they hate, and that obviously doesn't fix anything. No one's been no one's mind has been changed over a Facebook argument. You kidding me? Think about that. Yeah, Do you think anybody's mind has changed? No, there's just two pissed off people instead of one. When you see somebody put something up that's obviously controversial, maybe it's rude, maybe, whatever. What's it going to do to you? They say, what's the saying? Anger is the punishment we give ourselves for being upset with somebody else.
They're going to say anger leads to the dark side. Fear leads to hate.
Yeah.
You from Star Wars? Okay.
It's got to, really, that's what it is. That's not even...
The anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Yes, that too. But
By the way, it was an analogy and a simile. So
yeah,
simile is when you go something is like something, and then I think all similes are analogies, right? No, that's not true. That was definitely an analogy, though. You had
it right. An analogy.
Yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, it's a fantastic one because if you really think about it, marijuana is similar. Although I don't think the effects of marijuana are as long lasting because you can come back and be the same person.
I don't feel that reset. Like with the psychedelics, I felt the reset button, but with weed, I feel kind of just a.
I'm so much less dismissive. My ego really takes a nap when I'm on weed.
How do I feel when I'm in weed? I don't want to. I feel lazy when I'm on. I just really just don't want to do anything. I'm just
I can be the same. Depending on what you're smoking. See, the thing is, I take a higher dosage of CBD when I smoke the pen. No.
Indica?
I don't even know.
Oh, okay.
It's just CBD. CBD is really helpful. I don't know what kind it is. I think it might be indica. I don't know though, but it definitely helps me have a less dismissive thought pattern for that time being, and I kind of reflect on that based off of how deeply I thought. It helps. I think, in my opinion, to sometimes listen. You know, like for those of you who haven't gotten into listening to like good philosophy, man, you're missing out. There is some amazing stuff online. It's awesome you're familiar with Alan Watts, because I don't know many people who are. The dude died in the 60s.
He just it's because you go down that rabbit hole on YouTube, and there's always like if you're listening to Jordan Peterson, you're gonna get the Alan Watts. Like it'll be like with music or cool visuals and stuff like that. So it's played in the background while I do stuff.
What's the name of that book? 12 Rules for Life. 12 Rules for Life. Ladies, gentlemen, listen to it. I'm listening to it right now. So my new thing, this is what I'll do, and I'll talk about it. I don't like to usually talking about things I'm really excited about, because I want to make sure I'm still doing them, but I want to listen to a book a week. I'm trying to do that because I have an hour commute a day. 7 hours a day, if not more, because I'm driving all over the place. I go to this guy's house in Belchertown. It's like a half hour away, 45 minutes away. Why am I listening to music all the time? You know, that's at a certain point, how you got to reflect and think, how gluttonous are your activities? How much are you really just feeding your pleasure systems? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From the food we eat to the music we listen to, and then what kind of habits does that evoke? Because typically, if you're zoning out into listening to music, your thought pattern becomes extremely sporadic and unfocused when you listen to music, which isn't bad, because sometimes it's good to unwind like that. But my problem is that my thought pattern isn't focused enough, just because of lots of habits like that, drinking caffeine probably when I shouldn't, and listening to too much music, and not going through doing things all the way through sometimes. So I sort of create my own anxiety. We all do, I believe. You know what I mean?
One of the in regards to like, oh, what do I want to consume, right? Like one of the things I like to do, and it's because I'm a storyteller and I like to write and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like
I was going to say stories. You were so good at portraying a skit. When I was talking to Elijah about that, I said Tom definitely had it down better than anybody else, like hands down, man.
Thank you. I appreciate. I put it like I'm telling you, like before everything, before comedian, before anything, like I consider myself a writer. Like I'm telling you, I will die a writer. Like that to me is in my soul.
I'm glad to hear that, man, because I feel like there's so much potential for. Considering how good you are at it, it's always about sticking with it too.
Mm-hmm. That's 100%.
I think the biggest disease in the world is that people don't believe in themselves, and I think that's what stimulates a lot of aggression.
Mm-hmm. I think fundamentally that's been the biggest to me. I feel like sometimes years have a theme, right? And the year for 2020 has been faith.
Yeah.
And you have faith in a lot of things. What I think the faith is what keeps you moving, because at the end of the day, we don't know, right? We have to have hope. And I've learned one of the biggest things is to just believe in myself. It's just like, just stick to it and things are going to work out. You know what I mean? But what I was going to say is video essays. I like listening to video essays because I like to hear people break down stories. Because when I hear people take a movie, like say a movie,
is that when they talk about the movie as it's playing? Is that?
No, that's commentary. Essay? Okay. Video essay would be like, we're going to discuss how Batman Begins deals with trauma in the film and kind of how it deals with those themes. Or we're going to break down how the director does this and
deep
that.
Nitty gritty.
And it goes into, and I like listening to that because it kind of, even in a film, like they can break it down, but you can use that same technique for writing a book or writing a play or writing like anything with a narrative, right? Mm-hmm. So that's kind of because I tried the book thing. But I just
I listen to Audible. I have a terrible focus.
I would try when I'm like walking or something, but I couldn't find books that I was like.
Yeah,
what do I? But
it's tough.
The video essays, I'd be like, okay, this is something where I'm learning and I'm having a new. But
sometimes
books is tough.
Yeah. It's I mean, here's the thing: there's so much to gain from it, but I think down to one of the most important things besides the knowledge, because I think the knowledge is probably the most important thing you can gain from a book, but it's the focus in absorbing that information. That's a very valuable secondary feature of listening to a book, listening to a podcast, and especially reading a book, because at the end of the day, it's easier to listen than it is to read. So when you're reading something, you're going to need a lot more focus, and if you're somebody who thinks while they can read, it might not, that's like a meditation. So it's certainly a skill that you end up learning, I think, from reading more so than anything, is that you're focused on a linear thought pattern. Because the mind is not really that linear if you really think about it. Like even as we're talking right now, we're thinking about other things. Yeah. It's like I love Elon Musk's description of how his brain is, and he said it's like a constant explosion.
I had this conversation with my friend. So me and my friend did this thing once. It was like early on when we were at HEC, and we were like, so it was me, my friend Devin, it It was an ex of mine and this girl Mariah and this dude Josh, and we were like, all right, we're gonna go to UMass and try to sneak into like a party. And I was like, Devin, what if we just pretend to be someone else for the night? Like, what if we just like don't? And they were like, what if we pretend to be each other?
So like crash the party?
Yeah, like just like not too crazy. We're gonna crash the party and like. As an added bonus, like, what if we just pretend, like, you know, in movies, like,
I know Tony.
Yeah.
I'm his brother.
But we decided what we're going to do is we're going to do impersonations of each other.
Oh.
So
you were him and he was you?
Yeah. Oh. And it was offensive.
What, did you hurt each other? You hurt each other's feelings?
Like, it wasn't like my feelings up the mic.
Yeah, what happened here?
Is it? Okay. So.
That was weird.
Yeah, it kind of did, though.
It probably just clipped. That was weird.
What happened? So he did an impression of me, and all I could think of, like, damn, is that how you see me? Like, do I talk that much? Like, is that how I sound? And I did the impression. It was kind of like the same as like, oh, is that how I talk? Is that how I sound? And then I was curious. It's like, how did you like get into character? Like, how did you? Because that's how you see me. And then we went into. So we described how we decided to do the impersonation. I don't know if you guys ever want to do impersonations of each other. Like, maybe you'll get offended. Maybe it'll be if you go into it with the mindset, it'll be fun.
Oh my god, it'd be so funny. Here's the thing: what you're describing is essentially a fantastic way of seeing how good of friends you are, because that threshold of offensiveness either will be met very easily or very hard.
It's
like, I feel like we'd have a blast.
It's like we
pretty much make fun of each other.
You can get offended, but it's like, can we still be cool? Yeah. You know what I mean? Because it's good. You might, I don't know, maybe you guys will hurt each other's feelings, maybe you won't, but it's still like we're still bros. You know what I mean? We're still friends.
You'd be surprised. I don't know. We come a very great way to describe it. I think either Jeremy or like Seth had described it this way. In our friend group, you either had to be really funny or really tough, because we were pretty much roasting I don't remember a time where we were not roasting each other. To this day, we still roast each other.
Under each other's skins, and you know each other's flaws.
We ride that horse into the night.
Yeah.
It's fun, man. It's funny because. It's weird. I don't know if I've ever really been super offended by...
I definitely have said some stuff that you've been like...
Did I get mad?
You're like sitting there like you don't want to respond to it because it bugs you.
Yeah.
You know, and you're kind of just hoping I stop.
Sometimes something just happens and you're just like, damn,
fuck you, man.
I don't gotta... Sometimes someone says the right thing and you don't even have a response. Yeah. And you just gotta take it. It's like,
I'm going
home. I actually wrote a poem for him that was like... that really...
Oh my gosh. I'm going to put it up here. What was that freaking... Oh, I have my phone. This is the most epic picture ever they made of me. I think it was you and Jeremy. And it's... let me just show you really quick. Bear with me now. Oh. He who finds comfort in being comfortable will not be uncomfortable while being comfortable.
Where's that line? Is that just like
I think they made it up. Did you make that up?
Oh no, dude, that was all Jeremy actually.
No way, dude. That was hilarious.
Like, full philosophy feel.
It literally, it's a saying that means nothing. It just said what it was. There was no point. Oh my god. Yeah, we bust on each other all the time. That's one thing. We always try to get under each other's skins with is, oh, what are you comfortable? What are you rubbing the tops of your hands? Basking in the wake of comfort is what I say to people who aren't down to do something wild.
That's a good way to. It's like a kinder way of being like, oh, what are you, a pussy? You know what I mean? Like you guys are like, what are you, comfortable?
It's almost more insulting. Because it's on a deeper level as adults. So as kids, the pussy thing, yo, you're a pussy. That's one thing. But then when you go, what are you just basking?
Are you psychologically unable to leave your comfort zone?
Are you just basking in your comfort?
That's true, though. That's how I think about it a lot. Is just like trying to...
You certainly are not somebody who basks in your comfort. So back to your comedy. That's so how do you develop a routine? Do you freestyle it when you're going up on stage?
I'm a planner. I'm more of a, I would describe
you write your
it
jokes.
As, like Seinfeld, he's a writer. You know what I mean? But I'm a writer first, so that's kind of, I like to.
That makes perfect sense.
So I'll think about, my philosophy is jokes. My philosophy for jokes is, how can I get you to laugh at something that you shouldn't be laughing at.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, can I get you to laugh at something that you would normally be offended by?
That's the thing that really sells these days with comedy, man. People are really pushing the envelope.
You have to know
how far you can push the envelope.
So first thing is like, what's the subject? Maybe I'll think about a subject I want to talk about. Like, do I want to talk about
race or gender related?
Yeah,
preferably.
Like exactly. So I'll think about that, and then because there's different kinds of jokes. There's jokes that are a true story. How do I make this true story funny? Then there's the opposite spectrum where sometimes I'll just make something up. You know what I mean? Something funny. Sometimes jokes is just like, oh, that's obviously. Sometimes a comedian tells a joke and you can tell like, oh, that's a made up. And then there's everything in between, right? The spectrum from true and absurd. And like, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Anthony Jeselnik, the comedian. No. He does a lot of shock.
Is he local? No.
No. He's like a Netflix special guy.
Kidding.
Like, yeah. But his humor is like, it's not stories. He'll tell like I'm trying to think of a joke of his. It'll be something. I'm not gonna do it justice, but it'll be something along the lines of like, I can't. But it'll be like abortion jokes and stuff like that, and burning down a I don't know, like an orphanage, like stuff like that. But like he doesn't. The
most hilarious.
He doesn't do this stuff. So my jokes range between that. So I'll think of the joke.
That's one thing I fear the most that might be taken away through the all this PC stuff is how much will it deter people's ability to convey humor?
I think that if we lose our ability to be honest in comedy, that'll be the least of the worries. Like if society gets to that point, because we complain about it and we're like, you can't say anything. It's like you just have to find the right audience. And really, if the people who are complaining aren't your audience, let it go, right? Like, but sometimes like if you're someone like Kevin Hart who's famous, you kind of reach this point where you're like, dang. It's you people. It's not like Kevin Hart sacrifices his integrity. I respect him as a comedian, but you got to be like, all right, if I don't apologize for this or if I don't say something, I can lose a lot of money. And you have a brand which is responsible for a lot of people, so it becomes more than Kevin Hart's integrity, and it becomes this comedian or this person who's like, I have a business to run, and I have to watch what I say now, because what if I say the wrong thing and I get canceled and I lose this and that?
But it's strange because
on my team who are going to get hurt.
Since when does a comedian ever have to be held accountable for what they say? If the objective is to make people laugh for the sake of making people laugh.
It's people who don't understand comedy. Yeah. It's people who don't get it. And I feel like one thing people don't get too is a lot of comedians play characters on stage, right? Yeah. Someone might make a joke and you're like, that's not a funny thing to say. And it's like, but the comedian doesn't mean it. For example, do you like Quentin Tarantino?
I love Quentin Tarantino.
All right, Leonardo DiCaprio in Django Unchained plays a slave master, right? Now imagine someone trying to cancel Leonardo DiCaprio for saying the N-word in Django Unchained when he plays a slave master, right? Or like a horror, like you said, it's like you whipped people in that movie.
All those actors.
You're an actor, right? Yeah. Comedy's no different. Yeah. The thing is you have to understand is some comedians
it's an act.
Yeah, it's an act, and people forget that. It's like when you're watching a stand-up comedian, think of it the same way you would as an actor playing a role in the movie. That's what scares me.
What's that movie with Christian Bale? It's like Atheum or something, where they live in a dystopian society where you're not allowed to express emotion at all.
Oh, that sounds good. I gotta see
Equilibrium. Really great movie.
I love
Christian Bale. Amazing movie. So it's a dystopian future where you're not allowed to express any emotion at all, and everybody in the society, and no spoiler alerts, so don't worry, and everybody in the society is on a prescribed drug, and they all take it at the same time. So they have a device, I think, or they just all are familiar with the time to take the drug, and it just renders the entire population completely numb to any type of emotion. So there's no color on the walls, there's no music in the radio, there's no style in the clothes, there's really just nothing, right? That way nobody's offended, everybody's, I don't know what you would call that state, but everything's okay. Okay. What were you saying? Apathy. What's that word mean?
It's basically just like not caring about life.
It's dismissive. You're just choosing not to make that connection.
Imagine that. Hopefully we don't get there. I hope comedy and music can at least be preserved and forgiven for things, because at what point does anything get turned around, like you're saying? 10 years later, somebody looks at the podcast and goes, oh, did he just say what I thought he said?
He wanted Aunt Jemima to stay.
Okay, for the record, though, let's go back into my Instagram, because here's why I'm a little bummed.
What's up?
Oh, come on, internet, be fast here, because it's way down. Okay, I'm like a OG Instagrammer. So, back in 2013, November 13, Women Crush Wednesday was Aunt Jemima for me.
No wonder you don't want her to go.
Hashtag oh my okay,
I'm
so my
proud.
hashtags are the best thing ever. I go hashtag OMG, hashtag sexy as fuck, hashtag fat boner. Oh, younger me.
That's a MILF right there, though.
She's all right. Hey, breakfast was awesome with her. I will say it's the most unhealthy syrup you could possibly buy, but it was delicious. Still is, probably. Oh, it's all corn syrup is really what. That's the secret ingredient.
I've really tried cutting out sugars and stuff in like the past couple months, and because it's like I feel like one of the upsides of like quarantine
Smart move to cut out sugars. I'm trying to do the same thing actually.
And one thing that has to go with cereal, like because it's just like man, like, everything's just sugary. And
well, when you're an adult, you can buy anything you want, really. And going to the grocery store is a test of will. Because, I need my oatmeal, sure. I'll get like some whole wheat Cheerios or something. Oh, look, Fruity Pebbles. Lucky Charms.
Cocoa Pebbles is
just once. Just this one time. But man, the amount of sugar you get. I mean, here's the thing. For those of you who don't know, we're not saying, there's so many reasons why it's so important to cut out sugar. Because it's not just, oh, I'm healthy and I get healthy points. Sugar literally decreases your body's ability to produce things like serotonin. That's just one of many.
It's like a socially accepted drug in a way. Like, it's really just, we don't realize how bad it is for us.
On a hardcore level. Like, we're like, if there was a sport, if consuming sugar was a sport, we would be extreme athletes here in the U.S. Because you can't even, so when I lived in Portugal, you can't even buy food-colored sugars. Food color cereals. You like chocolate and then like the plain flavors. That's all you get.
For health reasons, for like.
I would assume, because obviously Europe's health standards are a lot different than America. I don't know if you can buy.
America is just too free. I mean, I don't want to say too free because I like our freedoms.
It's not too free. You can always just not buy it. But you're right. I mean, at what level do people take their health into account? You know what I mean?
And I think that's part of too, like, because I think at a certain point, a lot of Americans just don't care because a lot of people are educated. But I think people just, I really think like there is that individual personal responsibility, but I think that the information just isn't getting out in a way that makes sense because when sugar and stuff is so normalized, someone can tell you like.
Well, there's a lot of conspiracy behind how sugar was implemented. I mean, what happened is at some point there was some massive lobbying going on against fat because there was I don't know how the conception of it came about, but they were trying to target fat as though it was the reason people were getting fat because it's easier to make foods taste good with sugar, I believe. So what happened so in anything, I mean, from seasonings to whatever, but what happened is that they instead lobbied to, I think, obviously we can walk through the grocery store and see all these different products that don't need to have this less than 1% fat or low fat. Like, literally, protein and fat are essential nutrients. You can live your entire life without carbohydrates. You know what I mean? With any.
Tried the keto for a bit.
Yeah. Keto, I mean, it's livable. It's possible. It's not comfortable. You're probably still going to want like vegetables and stuff. But my point is, sugar at no point is even needed for your body. Refined sugar like that isn't even, never mind, is it a necessity or do you need it at all? It's like bad for you.
And you can tell because it's like doing keto, like I would crave things with like I wouldn't say crave, but like I really like missed like damn, I just really want some potatoes, right? You know what I mean? I would crave. But like when you cut sugar out,
following somebody to their car, they see a loaf of bread in their bag.
It's like yo, some French fries.
Like in a day's bread.
But like when you cut sugar out, like I really like there are moments where I might be like but I really don't crave like. Yeah. Like for a moment, I might be like, I kind of want to grab a donut.
That's a real addiction.
Think about it, and so I would say like trust me, like cutting out sugar is hard. It's not like it's 100%. Like sometimes I'll grab, you know what I mean? Like if someone like a little piece of chocolate, but I don't go out of my way to buy candy and stuff like that anymore. Like desserts, like the sweetest thing I eat will be like, I don't know, like fruit. Like I'll take fruit. Like if I really am craving sugar, I'll eat fruit because it's still sugar.
That's a smart move because then you get the same kind of dopamine release that sort of wades off the addictive properties.
But it's not
because
like that process.
Yeah, because if you think about it, it's been proven that sugar is just as addictive as cocaine, and we can eat it in really high quantities and have real addictions to it. And I don't know if people really take that into account. So at some point, and here's one thing that I really tell myself just from a psychological conditioning standpoint is does something, because we all love feeling good, right? That's pretty much why we're alive and pretty much why we do anything we do, is to inevitably feel good in some way, right? Sacrifice, it's very easy. Sacrifice the sensation of something tasting good for the sensation of feeling good. And typically, if you can get into the rhythm of doing that, you end up a much healthier person and just somebody who feels better. Especially like sugar, it can really mess up the way you think and the way you feel and the way you sleep, the way you age.
And I promise, I mean, there's some people who are like super, super addicted. Like for example, I already wasn't a soda drinker. Like I never liked carbonation growing up, so I didn't. But like there's a lot of sugary things I like. Yeah. But even then, it's just like I'm surprised. I'm telling you, like
I used to drink soda all the time.
It's worth it. Like I don't miss it, and you do feel the differences.
Yeah. As you get older too, I was just talking about this. You can't get away with being unhealthy.
Yeah. That's the thing too. It's
you
like
can't get away with it.
I'm at a point right now where I'm like, I'm in my mid-20s. I'm 25. Like, let me not wait until I'm in my 30s when the doctor's telling me I need to get my shit together. It's like, I have the time now.
Yeah.
Let me do it now.
Talk about this for a second. So if you guys have already checked out, and if you haven't, check out Tom's Instagram.
Tom Roché Comedy.
Yeah, Tom Roché Comedy, Instagram.com. You're doing a 30-day or 100-day one punch man challenge. Yeah, what is this? Talk about this.
Okay, so let me give the intro for it first. Yeah. There's a show called One Punch Man. It's an anime.
Awesome show.
If you don't know what anime is, just fancy word for Japanese stylized cartoon.
Dude, yeah.
But so you see One Punch Man, right?
I've seen a season of it.
So for people who haven't seen it, I'm not going to spoil it, but the concept of the show is there's a character called Saitama, and he's the strongest superhero. Like Superman level, like how people think Superman's boring because he's the strongest.
It's comedic how strong he is. It's insane.
It turns on. It kind of subverts it in a way where it's like, as opposed to watching a show and thinking, is he going to defeat the bad guy? You're thinking, is he going to get the fight that he wants? Because he became a superhero for fun and he's bored fighting all these guys. But he became so strong, and this is part of the joke. Like it wasn't like he's an alien, or he got bit by a radioactive. He just did 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, 100 squats, and ran a 10-kilometer run every day for 3 years. So I saw a couple people.
No way. So that's how it happened?
Yeah, that's his like. It's a joke. Like it's like he's Superman level strength.
That's how I know. Like these these antagonists that are the size of mountains just stomping on cities, and he just goes
just one punch, and he always gets upset because he wants to have a fight, but he beats everyone in one punch. One punch man.
How's that going so far? Day 31?
They do 31. So I don't do it every day because unlike Saitama, I need rest days if I want to see because Saitama just did every day because an anime character. But I've noticed the differences. I'm at 31 days. It's the difference. So I went from so I don't. Like, my goal is to get down 100 push-ups, 100 sit-ups, and 100 squats done within an hour.
Right.
I'm not doing it all back-to-back. I bumped it up to 150, so that's pretty cool.
How do you separate those reps? Do you just do all 100, or do you do 50 push-ups and then go to something else?
So I'll separate in just straight for, 10 to 15 minutes. It'll be, separated. And, right now I'm at, 7 to 8. I can do 7 to 8 reps. So that's, up to 150 times. Not 150 times, but to 150. Today, what I did was for the first 60 was reps of 10, and then it alternated between reps of 7 and 8, and then I got to 150, and I was like, all right, and I did something similar with the sit-ups and then the squats. For the run, I love running. I learned that I love to run.
No kidding.
There's something freeing about it, and now
I went on a good run today. It is nice.
It's great.
It feels good.
Some people don't like running, but I.
Well, what happens is okay. So for most of you who think, I don't like running, and most the time the reason you don't like running is because it's immediately discomfort. It's immediately very uncomfortable because you're fucking cold and your body hasn't moved.
I'm surprised at how quickly your body adjusts though. My lung capacity is so much different than when I started.
Once your blood starts pumping and your joints get warmed up and all those types of things, it becomes a lot easier to maintain that pace, and then you get the high of maintaining an elevated heart rate, which is a very good feeling, and a thing I think the majority of Americans do not get. And this leads to shitty sleep patterns, anxiety, depression, because at the end of the day, it's very important to challenge your heart. There's a lot of things your heart's responsible for, and the stronger your heart is, and the stronger your the lower your resting heart rate is, and the more you challenge your maximal heart rate, the better off your passive metabolism will be. It stimulates your metabolism in a way, and this is obviously the function that, facilitates the production and maintenance of a lot of hormones in your body.
And this is your job, right? Like,
this is my job, yes. Yeah. No, I'm telling you that. I'm telling you that as a fact.
Yeah, this guy knows what he's talking about.
This is what I do, and this is what I see this a lot. Because it's a really great thing to see when somebody really goes out there and says, okay, I'm going to work with a professional, and they get the benefits of working with a professional because that motivation, and I think that's a big thing that a lot of people lack, because that's the one thing you don't have. You're already not motivated. That's how you got to where you are, and you're unhealthy, and all these things stack up. So it's extremely difficult to create a routine or consistency for yourself.
And I'm not a workout exercise person. Like, I'm not. Like, there was one time in 2018 where I went to the gym for like 2 months. Like, I didn't do sports in high school. Like, this is the thing where just everything lined up right. I had the time because of everything going on, and I had the motivation, and I was like, I want this. The most important thing was that I wanted to do it, and I was okay with the pain because I understood like what the pain meant, and that's kind of a sacrifice. And I've got 69 days to go. Haha, 69. But like, again, that's also why I shaved my head.
Yeah, I noticed that.
Saitama
last
is bald.
time I saw you,
he trained so hard that he lost
full
his hair.
dedication.
So
I love
it. That's how I'm into
bold,
it. I am.
Dude, you're bold. I kind of always thought, hey, maybe I should just go for a good head shaving.
Dude,
it's a good reset.
I bought
Feels pretty wild.
Yeah.
It's nice, and I kind of like the little prickles.
Yeah. And you can just get out of bed as is.
And I'm still going to save money because I bought a thing, and now I can just do this.
Oh, you're going to keep it down
I think
for the rest
might.
of the challenge?
I think for sure I let it grow out, and then I'll shave it every couple, like, a week. But, like, I think after the challenge, like, I'm in no rush to get my hair back.
Yeah.
I'm really not. I have unruly hair that grows very fast.
You had a good do going on. When I saw you New Year's, by the way, that was awesome.
Dude, I was gone. What was I? Honestly, I remember waking up and being like, I must have just been obnoxious.
You were stoked. No, you were stoked. It was cool, man.
Okay,
I really enjoyed it. I was like, so I was with my friend. You were with your friends, and it was so funny. I'm like, is that fucking Tom? Sure as shit. What a cool place, by the way. Progression. Shout out to Progression Brewery in Northampton. Very cool. They had that
place. Like the is it the 20s? What kind of music
was
was
it
again?
It was like swing music and kind of. It wasn't fun swing music, but it was cool. It was nice. I liked it. And the environment there is great. It's an open. I mean, here's the thing with Northampton and East Hampton, the bars that are popping, they're popping, and it's sort of shoulder to shoulder, and you can't really.
It was a packed night. It was a packed night.
Well, there it was packed, but you had mobility. You could move around. I really enjoyed the fact that we had a place to sit. Like that, you don't really get something, and not only just a place to sit, we had a freaking couch. We had like a conversation circle.
That was a pretty cool place.
It was a cool night. I was like, this whole night came together. Tristan was there.
Tristan was on a date. I remember I came up, I was like, oh, okay, I see you, Tristan. Tristan was also in a video class, right?
He was in the same one with us. So between the people I remember and admired the most was Tristan, yourself, and Elijah. And you all really had, obviously, things that were, you had a lot of skill, and it was apparent that you cared about the class, because you know how college can be in a class and anything. People can just go in to see and try it out, because that's what happens. A lot of people would go to a class like that to learn about it. We were already involved, and that's the beauty of I
wanted to take it to the next level.
Exactly. And I think that's where we were sort of all at, and it was funny how different all of our perspectives were. Like, I liked editing. Honestly, that's what I like the most.
It's an art. It's so fun. Yeah.
It is fun. And that's kind of why I got into it the most. And you were extremely good at writing and then portraying those things on film. Elijah was a musician, He was good at making songs, and he even has a lot of great music videos. And Tristan, he's like
behind the camera.
He was so skilled at the keynoting, like when it came to making graphics and stuff like that. Like, what was the software he was using for a while? Like, he could do the lightsaber effects and stuff really well. Yeah. Does he still do stuff like that? You gotta go? Yeah, no problem. I'll see you later, bro.
Nice to meet you.
Jamie Doo's out, by the way. He's been behind the camera. I forgot to give Jamie Doo a shout out. Yeah, man. Take care, bro. But yeah, man, he was so good at
he
that.
does photography. He does photography now, so that's kind of like I forget where he works, but I know if anyone needs, what's his Instagram might just be Tristan Donahue. I'm assuming, but he does photography. Gets some headshots.
So he's really big into photography now.
I don't know like if it's like a passion of his, but he does it and he's good at it.
Sorry, I did check out his Instagram.
He does it and he's good at it.
He is very good at it. He's very good at it for somebody who's just I think starting.
I don't know. I don't
damn.
want to say he's starting, but he's been behind the camera for a while.
Like if you need
at the very least 5 to 6 years, he's been behind the camera.
If you need headshots, that's the guy to go to.
Yeah, I've actually met him. So it was this place called the Drama Studio in Springfield, and this was like maybe like mid high school, and I went to see a friend or an ex perform because I had a friend and I had a bunch of people who coincidentally all went to the Drama Studio. And I went to see someone's show.
Yeah, and
I sat next to Tristan. And I don't know how the conversation started. I had never met this dude in my entire life. And I think it was just, like, it's a stranger, like, to start a conversation. And we ended up having a conversation. It was me, him, and this dude, Brett. I haven't seen Brett since then, I think. But we were just strangers, and we were like, hey, like, if you were going to sell any drug, what would it be? And we just kind of made this, like, hypothetical where we were like these drug lords and this drug trifecta, and we each had like a drug that we sold. But like I've never had talked to him ever before in that moment. Like that was our first conversation
with Tristan
ever, yeah. And it was just like a random dude. And then I saw him again in college.
No kidding.
And then like we've been friends since then.
In the same class, dude. That class was fun. That was I liked being, and I've been thinking about it too lately. I would really like to go back to college at some point to I think do more electronic media. I just don't know where I would start, and I wouldn't want it to be too intermediate. But just to learn about, like, maybe I would go in for music. I'd like to know how to better edit sound, because that's now a big thing here with the podcast, and been the challenge with this is making the best sound. You got to listen to it in the car. What if you're wearing headphones? There's a lot of things you have to take into consideration when you're editing audio. You don't want it to be too much bass. You don't want it to be too much treble. The mics do a lot of the work, which is nice, but there's also a lot of things that you need to alter, like an S filter and stuff like that, so like the S's aren't popping, and that you're not clipping all the time, so you have to add compression and all these different things.
Yeah,
I don't know if you ever worked with audio.
No, like I was just thinking about that. Like I haven't, because I would do video and stuff, but I haven't, like I really made the focus like writing and stuff like that. Yeah. So like there's a lot of stuff that I know, because eventually I wanna come back to it. But I know there's a lot of stuff, and technology is always advancing. Things are changing. So there's like you're saying stuff, and it sounds foreign, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to catch up.
Yeah.
On
you'll get right on it. That's the cool thing about it. I mean, for me, I didn't really have too much trouble like understanding what it was. Obviously, I could be better at making the adjustments. I haven't put any money into the software. I use GarageBand, for those of you who might be wondering. It's free with any Mac computer, and it works fine, honestly. It takes the software, does the compressions. There's all the settings you might need. It might not be obviously as good as, I'm sure there's plenty of people who might recommend like Logic Pro or something like that over that. But what are you doing for work these days?
Unemployment.
Really?
Pandemic unemployment. I'm not complaining.
No, yeah,
I just went away, but
what were you doing prior to the pandemic?
Janitorial work. That was it. Yeah. But the upside of it was extremely, extremely flexible.
Yeah.
And so like I got to basically, whenever I was like, I have comedy.
Here's the thing.
I could go do comedy, which is cool.
Dreams are always way more important than work. People all the time will either value themselves based off of their occupation or their degree or something that's really just, what's the word for it? It's
superficial?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the best way, I think, in my opinion, and the way I value myself is how much or how often am I tracing my dreams? How many dreams do I have? What are my ambitions? Because if my goal is just to go to work and come home every day,
I can't.
That's not living.
That's also just
that's not living.
I'd rather blow my brains out, dude. Like.
So that's especially in the beginning, because I've always had at least in my first go, because I'm still new to the world in a sense. I've only been here 28 years, like you're kind of figuring things out. You're still, like, geez, we still have our whole life ahead of us.
Fucking our grandparents are making shit up as they go along. Like everyone's just making shit up until they die. And
so you should always be going from one passion to the other. These people who have the job and then they've worked there I've been working here for 47 years. Like, what, dude? You're not tired of that shit?
Some people obviously are miserable about it and just aren't changing it. But there's some people who really just love it.
Don't give up on your dreams, folks.
Because some people, you're some right, people, their dream is like I have a friend. And
what if you become a comedian? You might be a comedian for the rest of your life, like a really famous one, I should say. You already are a comedian.
I would love to. Like I mean, there's so many things I want to do. Yeah. But I'd love to make a living off of writing, and I'd love to make a living off of comedy. And there are a million other things that I want to do.
Practice, man.
But those
exposure.
That's the thing is really it's like going to the gym, right? Like my gym is writing, and sometimes like I feel like I grew up with this feeling of because writing is an intangible thing. Like you don't have you can write, like, you know what I mean, you can print it out and you have this, but it's not like something you create or something that you service with other people in the way of like, you know, make you get what I mean, right?
Yeah.
I always had this guilt of like I felt like I was wasting my time.
People will sacrifice so much for the monetary value of something, and that's I think a huge problem, and why so many people are depressed. They don't like their life
priorities
that much.
are in different.
They just
places.
want like if you go, oh, I got this job. Like I can't tell you how many people I know, and it's the saddest thing, who get sucked up into like a machine job. Yeah, they get $30 an hour, but then all of a sudden their lifestyle meets that per hour rate. Better you be financially broke and chasing your dreams than wealthy and depressed, right? Because there's nothing, obviously, really at the end of the day, you're not going to look back and be like, oh, thank God I went to work for 55 years.
And if you are chasing your dreams and still depressed, maybe like rethink things.
Yeah.
Because the whole point is that it has to be worth it, right? Like you have to be.
Well, obviously, honestly, if you are depressed, like it's kind of one of those things. They think about it. If they're depressed and chasing their dreams, are they? I mean, are they doing
like
what they really want to do?
What you're doing, like because I know a lot of people who go after this art, but they get sad when because I know what it's like to like again like that story of like, you know, I've bombed a couple times, but that was like the hardest bomb in the week.
You need to do that.
But I also wasn't discouraged at that point. I never thought I'm never doing. I was like, wow, this hurt, and my eyes got watery.
Yeah.
But I was like, can't wait to do it again. You know, and if you're not feeling that way about your art, I'm not going to say give up on it, but really rethink why you're doing what you're doing.
Absolutely. Dude, that is so true, man. Because at the end of the day, you have to have that, man. Imagine if there was a comedian who never bombed. Like that's like... It's just not how not how the process works. And so many people will just give up on themselves because something doesn't work out right away. Trust me, even in the process of making something as simple, laid back as this, the thing is, it's nerve-wracking. And I can't tell you how much I freaking hate listening to myself. I'll be going over the footage and the audio of this, and I'm like, oh, you shut up, you fool. Like, what are you talking about? Because again,
that's a skill in itself too.
But I gotta get used to it in the same way that you gotta get like anybody who's putting themselves out there, in a sense, has to get used to the way they to their own performance and refine it in a way. Because we were talking about in the very beginning, finding who you are as Tom and as a comedian in front of people, because there's obviously a new human is born in that process, and you have to have
it's like a Venn diagram, right?
Yeah, like who's the one in the middle? You know what I mean? You got to be that person, and you got to be okay with failing. Failing, honestly, is the healthiest thing to do if you want to become good at something. If you want to become successful at something, and you're failing continuously at it, it is a good sign. Because that's how you know that your level of experience will usually trump people. What's the saying? Persistence beats skill.
Are you a fan of the Rocky movies?
You know, I've seen like the first one. I feel like it should be illegal that I haven't seen all of them.
I'm not going to be that guy who's like, because I saw him pretty late in life.
Yeah.
But
like I just saw The Godfather a couple years ago.
I haven't seen The Godfather.
It's amazing. You will love The Godfather. Anyways,
there's this one line of dialogue, and it's just this line, and he says, "It's not how hard you can hit; it's how many times you can get hit and get back up and still keep moving." And it's true about anything in life. In comedy, it's not about how hard you can make them laugh; it's about how can you keep going when they're not laughing. Yeah, exactly. And you will figure it out eventually.
Dude, that's what I've always
everything.
thought about.
So I agree completely. Failure is your best friend.
Yeah,
you have to stop looking at it as your enemy.
It's your master. Yes, dude, it's your freaking sensei.
Yes, everything is facts. Facts.
All right, man. We're at a little over half hour, and I kind of like where we're going with this, and I think it'd be completely appropriate and awesome to kind of like end it right here with that note, man.
All right, cool. Yeah, I like that.
That was awesome. Sweet. I can't wait to have you on again, dude.
I'd love to be on.
I want to thank you for coming on, and I hope you come back too, because I would really love to keep track.
Actually, no, fuck this podcast.
Peace. No, definitely. Well, I'm gonna obviously keep touch base with you as much as I can, because I think myself, and I speak for myself and a lot of other people, especially those who who follow your progress, really look forward to seeing how far you go with this, because if you've gotten this far in the podcast, you know kind of what it takes, and you know how somebody puts themselves out there, and that is not easy, man. So I really hope you stick with it, because you got a great sense of humor. I
promise you I will. I promise. The only thing that's going to stop me is dying.
That's right, dude. Then that's the only mentality you should have. So, all right, guys, if you haven't already, show Tom some love on his Instagram. For those of you who are listening, how do you spell it? Or not spell it, but...
TOMROCHE comedy, Tom Roché comedy.
There you go, at Instagram.
That's my Insta. That's my... I don't really do Twitter. If you want to add me on Snap, add me on Snap. Boom. Tom Roché on Facebook. Add me on Facebook.
Easy peasy.
Yeah, fucking just add me on Facebook.
Yeah, man. Guys, check them out. And thank you so much for listening if you have. And I'll see you later. Woo!